All right, let's talk about something we all use, probably every single day, Wikipedia. For decades, it's been the go-to answer for, well, pretty much everything. But now, there's a new challenger in the ring, an AI-powered encyclopedia from Elon Musk's xAI. Today, we're diving into a real battle for truth, Grokipedia versus Wikipedia.
And this whole debate really boils down to one huge question. Is the internet's most famous encyclopedia actually broken? Do we really need an alternative or even a total replacement? The answer to that could seriously change how we all get our information. So let's get into it.
So, first things first, what in the world is Grokipedia?
Okay, so Grokipedia is exactly what it sounds like, an encyclopedia generated by AI. So, instead of those thousands of human volunteers writing, editing, and arguing over every sentence, this thing uses artificial intelligence to create all of its entries. It's setting itself up as a direct competitor to the Wikipedia model we've known for years.
And they are not shy about their mission. The stated goal, coming from Elon Musk himself, is to, and this is a direct quote, purge the propaganda that he and his supporters argue has completely taken over Wikipedia. The idea is to create a source of information that's, more neutral.
So, what's the actual case for Grokipedia? Well, for its proponents, this isn't just a new product. It's a necessary fix for what they see as a totally broken system. And this quote from the commentator Tim Pool really sums up that whole feeling perfectly. He says he used to be a huge fan, even donated money, but now he just sees it as utter nonsense that's been captured by political groups. That sentiment right there, that's the real engine behind this push for an alternative. So from this point of view, the key argument is that Wikipedia just isn't a neutral referee anymore. The claim is that it has a clear political slant, that its articles on controversial people read more like what they call smears, instead of objective facts, and that it's constantly passing off opinions as settled knowledge. If you believe all that, then yeah, a new platform feels pretty essential.
But of course, that is not the whole story. As you can probably guess, critics of Grokipedia have a very different take. They argue that instead of getting rid of bias, it's really just swapping one kind for another.
And this headline from Wired magazine, it puts that counter-argument about as bluntly as possible. The claim here isn't just that Grokipedia has a few issues, it's that it's not neutral at all and is actively pushing a very specific political agenda.
So the case against Grokipedia goes like this. It's basically just taking existing Wikipedia content and running it through a filter, Elon Musk's personal worldview. Critics are pointing to what they call historical inaccuracies, a habit of bashing the mainstream media, and using language on sensitive topics that they say spreads harmful ideas. The bottom line from this camp? It's not neutrality, it's just a different flavor of bias.
Okay, so we've heard both sides of the argument, but what does all this talk about bias actually look like on the page? Let's compare a few specific entries based on what our sources have reported.
Let's start with the entry for Tim Pool himself. On Wikipedia, there's a line that claims he presents himself a certain way to seem authentic, which is, a pretty big claim about what's going on inside his head. Grokipedia, on the other hand, reportedly talks about a federal probe, and makes sure to include that Pool himself calls it a politically motivated attack. Right there, you can see two totally different ways to frame the same guy.
Now, this one is really interesting because the difference is so subtle. When talking about Donald Trump's hush money trial, Grokipedia's entry adds a little bit of context. It notes that critics called the legal theory novel and that it had no precedent. Just by adding those words, it reframes the whole case not as a standard legal process, but as something unusual, maybe even questionable. And when we get to a really contentious topic like transgender issues, the differences in language and framing become crystal clear. Grokipedia reportedly uses the word transgenderism, which a lot of people see as a loaded, even derogatory term. It also specifically calls out significant conflicts in women's sports and spaces, which puts a specific viewpoint right at the center of the article, a viewpoint that Wikipedia's messy collaborative process tends to handle very differently. So when you step back and look at all these examples, you start to realize something. This isn't just about a few biased articles. This is about two completely different, competing ideas about how knowledge itself should be created and shared with the world. And I think this breakdown just hits the nail on the head. One source described Wikipedia as democratic chaos turned into order. It's messy, it's collaborative, it's built by the masses.
Grok, on the other hand, is top-down clarity. There's no vote, it's just instant knowledge handed down from a single authoritative AI voice. Let's just break that down. Think of Wikipedia's knowledge as being slow-cooked. It's built over years by countless human editors who argue, debate, and have to cite their sources. Grokipedia's knowledge? That's microwaved. It's generated in an instant by an AI, adapting stuff that's already out there to fit a specific editorial line. It's the difference between an open-source community garden and a single, perfectly manicured, closed-off estate. And here is the absolute kicker, the ultimate irony in all of this. According to tech reporters, the very AI technology that powers Grokipedia is trained on data from Wikipedia. How crazy is that? It turns out that across the entire AI industry, Wikipedia's huge, human-made dataset is still considered one of the most reliable and neutral sources of information that exists. Which leaves us with a final and, honestly, a pretty scary question. The Wikipedia model, with all of its problems, is at least transparent. You can see the edits, you can read the debates. But as we walk into this new era, where an AI can write an entire encyclopedia in the blink of an eye, you have to ask, who's setting the rules? When an AI is the author, who gets to be the editor? Who decides what's true?
And that's our explainer. For more breakdowns just like this one, you know where to find us, instantsidebiz.com. Thanks for joining me.